Hey everybody, welcome to Readers Upright. Today we've got a really fun topic that I'm super excited about, and that is audiobooks. Do they count as reading or don't they? For me, I do take a pretty big side on this, just because of my experience, but I want to hear from you guys as well. So if you have any insights or comments or suggestions, please feel free to let me know down at the bottom. And don't forget to like and subscribe to this video as well. If you subscribe to Readers of the Right channel and ring that little bell down in the corner, you'll be notified of any upcoming videos we have. And I'm Tyler Tarter. I'm an indie author as well as an avid reader, as you can see from behind me. And that's only a small portion of the collection that the camera catches. So let's talk a little bit about where this all came about and why this war that we see on social media regularly kicking off about whether audiobooks are actually reading or not came from. Well, some of you guys may not have been alive long enough to actually remember where audiobooks started. Back in the late 80s and early 90s, the world started to move into a far more busy age than we used to be in, and books were extremely popular. During the 50s, 60s, and 70s, books became far more available and became a major staple of human life, especially in the first world countries like the United States, the UK, and other places. So much so that reading and reading comprehension became a massive part of education as well. Well, as that became a thing, we also started feeling a lot of pressures from jobs. Travel became a major part of especially American life, and a lot of other factors started to begin to play into our ability to have time to read. And time became the big question in all of this. And some narrators and companies decided that one of the best ways to solve this would be to create a collection of recorded books. It's not clear who the first people were. I'm sure with enough research I probably could find that, but it wasn't readily available as to who was the first one to do it. But several major publishers and audio recording studios that did voiceover narration and cartoon animation began producing those. They began producing first on cassette tapes, were the first ones that became regularly available. A lot of times having 10 to 15 tapes for one novel. I still remember seeing that when I was a little kid, going to the library and seeing the entire shelf section of, they were large, very large sets of cassettes that sometimes had, like Lord of the Rings had, I think, 4 sections, all filled with cassette tapes. And it was awesome. It was what kept me entertained on road trips because as a kid, I would get car sick fairly regularly. So I couldn't actually sit down and read. I did grow out of that later and shifted back to books when I was a teenager. But in those early days, audiobooks were king for me personally. And as I progressed, I moved into books. My ideal relaxation is still to have a sunny afternoon, go sit in some shade in a hammock with a good book. That is my paradise. And even more so if it's on a beach. Love the sound of water. But I'm super busy. I'm a professional author, but I also have a day job. So I have to commute to and from work. There's a lot of time at work that I spend just staring at a screen, looking through details. And if I focus too much, I'll actually miss stuff. So I have to listen to something. And this has become very common in the technologically advanced world we have. It's driven through the digital age to the point where a lot of people have jobs that require a lot of focus, but require not to be hyper-focused. For example, I work in IT and cybersecurity. A lot of that involves looking at logs. If I can, I may throw just a picture of what those logs look like up here. Just one I'll pull off the internet. Just so you understand, sometimes I will spend hours looking at those logs, looking for a typo or a single line that may be out of sync or maybe off somehow, looking for a problem. And if I focus too hard, I'll either start seeing things that aren't there, or I will miss the blatantly obvious because my mind starts seeing it as a repetitive pattern. And that is a major problem. I can't have that. And the easiest way to do that is to distract your brain partially. By giving your brain a partial distraction, you're able to split your focus a little bit, and your brain can focus without focusing entirely. And hyper-focusing is what they call it. And some people in my industry love to do that with music. Music kind of works. The problem is, if you have music that's too repetitive of a beat, you're just going to achieve the same thing. It's going to actually make the situation worse by already triggering the repetitive nature of your mind. But audiobooks have become king. A lot of people in my industry regularly have an earphone in, one earphone typically, so you can hear what's going on around you. But you're listening to an audiobook because that will pull the creative part of your mind away and let the logical side focus. By pulling your creative mind away, it's what locks onto things like patterns or creates things that aren't there, or it's your imagination. It's where your errors can come in a logical mind. So by splitting your focus, you're able to do that. It also keeps you from burning out as quickly because your logical mind takes precedence and it will start to actually suppress some of your emotions and some of your empathy. And you become for those of you who are Star Trek fans, you become Vulcan. Is the best way to explain it. You become hyper-logical without wanting to be hyper-logical. And it can be actually pretty detrimental to your life and your relationships. Which is why audiobooks in this digital age have become so popular, especially with younger generations. On top of that, audiobooks just aren't text, or aren't spoken text. Over the last many years, I can say even back to some of the early days, the power of narration is a powerful tool to storytelling. It's combining those fireside stories you got as a kid while camping or at some youth event, where people would tell you a story that you were completely enthralled in. A lot of times they were stories about Sasquatch or whatever, and that may not be something you ever did. But we all have some form of that storytelling environment. It could be your parents telling you a bedtime story. It could be anything along those lines. We've all experienced that at some point in our lives. And audiobooks with the skilled narrators do that as well. One of my favorite examples is Expeditionary Force by Craig Allenson. And he has his narrator, R.C. Bray, who is fantastic, does an amazing job of making it an immersive situation where he can flip between several different accents and has full-on separate voices that if you didn't know better, you'd assume they were legitimately different people. And it pulls you even further into the story. It allows for a deeper immersion because it eliminates some of the situations you can run into with typos or phrasing, or even sometimes the way paragraphs are structured on a page can pull you out of the story a little bit. And having that second level of immersion is extremely helpful to help you enjoy a story. Nowadays, there's actually been an even further step, pioneered first by Audible, at least that I saw, and now several other organizations are doing it as well, where they're doing full casts with sound effects and everything. So it's almost like the old school radio channels or the radio shows that would tell a story with 15 different actors and sound effect specialists One of my favorites recently is actually L. Ron Hubbard's Battlefield Earth and Mission Earth. Were both done with full casts. And by doing that, it takes the level of immersion even further because you're experiencing it to the point where it's basically a play without seeing anything. And as someone whose imagination tends to run like a movie anyways, it's fantastic. Those are some of my favorites that I've ever seen done. So I absolutely love the power of narration. The next thing that has driven audiobooks, especially recently, is something that Brandon Sanderson has actually talked about as well. And that is accessibility and inclusivity. Audiobooks do something that books can't. They can cater to far more people than books can. There are several different mental and physical issues that may prevent people from being able to pick up a book and read it, or even pick up an ebook and read it. And one of the most common that I hear quite frequently is dyslexia. Dyslexia and ADHD can ruin people's abilities to focus or even comprehend what they're reading. Dyslexia is not one that I'm super familiar with, but several of my family members have ADHD, and that's been very common for them. They aren't able to read like a lot of the rest of us, and they struggle to focus long enough to actually comprehend what they're reading. And it's not their fault, but for them, reading just doesn't do it. But an audiobook can break through that. For someone who has a reading disability, listening to it requires an entirely different part of your brain and doesn't require your eyes to understand what they're reading. And with someone who isn't able to focus as well, the more in-depth and play-natured narrations can help with the focus as well. Plus, it's far easier to pause an audiobook if you're losing focus than it is to try and remember where the bookmark is, put the bookmark in, mark it, put it down, and then remember to come back. Having an audiobook on your phone that you listen to while you're driving or while you're doing something frustrating at work or while you're cleaning your house is far more user-friendly. It's something that allows for far more people to enjoy books that they haven't been able to enjoy in the past. And for that, I'm very proud to be involved in that industry. There's a lot more, and I'm sure I'm missing a lot. So if you can think of anything in that inclusivity and accessibility category, or reasons why audiobooks are good for certain groups, please let me know below. I'd love to do a part 2 and talk more about that and about why audiobooks are important to those groups. It's something that I'm quite passionate about. I enjoy sharing the love of reading with everyone. And I'm very proud to say that I understand that picking up a hardcover book and reading it in the more traditional sense is impossible for a large portion of the people. And I'm trying to do my best to spread that and to encourage authors to get audiobooks done, which is why I love, there's an indie author fund that helps convert books to audiobooks. I haven't taken advantage of that yet. For the one that I have, that was funded entirely by me and my book profits, and the one or the two that I'm actually working on right now. I have a short story that's going into audio for Christmas Story, and my first fantasy story will be going to audio here soon too. But there's a lot of confusion and mistrust of audiobooks for some reason, which is something I've never understood. And that may just be that audiobooks have always played a part in my reading from the very beginning. Like I said, I loved, even back when I was in high school, I used to work out a lot because I played football and I did competitive weightlifting and things like that. And I wouldn't have music on while I was doing it. I usually have an audiobook. Back then, my MP3 player typically only had a couple chapters, so that didn't last very long, and I'd have to refill it every single day at night before I went to bed. But it's something that I hope more people will understand, and I hope it's something that will become more traditionally accepted. And that's been a big part of this conversation as well. And right now, one of the big things that a lot of authors are discussing is how to bridge this gap. There are a lot of people who would love to purchase a book bundle that is a physical copy of the book. A lot of times, like for me, I'll split my time between the audiobook, the ebook, and the physical copy. If I'm unsure of the book, I'll do one or maybe two. Usually it'll be the audiobook and the ebook, just because they're less expensive and they're less likely to take up space on my shelf. I'm very limited on my shelf space at this point. I have pretty much no room left. I probably need to get another shelf. But that being said, if publishers offered something as simple as buying the nice hardcover edition and in the back that included a QR code to the ebook and audiobook, I would be a massive fan. Or even, I'm surprised Amazon hasn't done something like that, where you can buy the bundle. You can do that with the ebook and the audiobook, but not the physical copy. And I would love to see them find a way to do that, because it would encourage people to buy all three. Why not? It's really simple. And I get the issue with Audible credits and things like that may cause some issues there, but it's something that is a conversation that's going on. Brandon Sanderson has talked a lot about this. I know I bring him up a lot, but he's one of the big catalysts for change in the writing world. So it's hard not to bring him up in conversations about this stuff. Honestly, a lot of the stuff that's happening is because he's pushing for it. We also see a lot of really cool stuff being done in the way funding is achieved for these. Audiobooks are not cheap to make, which is why a lot of indie authors struggle with it. For example, I'm not going to give any full numbers, but one of the audiobooks I had produced ran roughly about $2,500 just to get it recorded, and that was a fair price. To be completely fair, the audiobook narrators aren't ripping us off, aren't charging us through the nose for their time. The reality is they're probably actually getting underpaid for everything they're doing, because books take, a lot of times the number you'll see on Audible may be 10 to 20 hours, but the amount of time they have to take to first read the book, then they have to, some develop a script for it, some just read it a couple times and figure out exactly where their points are. One of the narrators I talked to recently will go through with a highlighter and highlight each character when they're speaking, so it's easy for them to tell who's speaking and when, which voice they're supposed to be using. They'll go through and map out each character's voice, cadence, any type of dialect or accent, or any other traits like that that may be influencing the way they narrate the book. And when all of that's said and done, it usually takes 2 to 3 times the amount of hours you see on Audible to actually get it all done. Oh, and I forgot the biggest part: editing. Even for a small YouTube video like this, it'll probably take me 2 to 3 times as much time to edit the video as it does to actually film it. That is also true with audiobooks. The amount of time they spend recording it, a lot of that will be consumed by the amount of time that it takes to edit it. And they have to do a far more finite edit than I do. I can get away with leaving in a few ums or uhs in my YouTube video without being too awkward, but they can't have any of that. So their push to get all of this done is absolutely fantastic, and I am very proud of all of the audiobook narrators that I've worked with. They have all done a fantastic job, and I hope to work with all of them in the future. And I can't say enough good things about them. They're fantastic people. And that kind of brings us to the wrap up. With all of this big push for some of the reading purists trying to push away audiobook readers and ebook readers and say that it's not really reading if you didn't actually have your hands on the book, it's another form of gatekeeping that we're seeing a lot of these days. And it's something that I don't really see the point of. If our goal is to encourage people to read, we need to provide different ways for them to read so they can read. And for me, audiobooks are one of the fastest growing, and I suspect will become one of the most popular versions of reading across the world as it becomes more readily available. And I'm glad to see that certain companies are finally coming around to finding better ways to help with compensation and sourcing and encourage people to actually put their books on audiobooks. For the last 4 or 5 years, there's been some dispute with compensation between authors and several other companies. Those have been resolved, and there's currently contracts being put into place, which is honestly why I decided to do 2 more stories in audiobook format. Before, it wasn't worth my time. Now, the time and money I'm going to spend, I hopefully will recoup pretty quickly, and the turnaround will be great. I'm super excited to see that end result and see the final results of the contract. But as a gift to you guys, because you guys managed to stay this long and listen to me rant a little bit about audiobooks, down in the link, if you're not already an Audible member, there's a link that allows you to have free access to a book when you sign up for Kindle, or not Kindle Unlimited. When you sign up for Audible, my book is one of them that you can sign up for there, and I'm super excited that you guys get a chance to take a look at it. So please feel free to join us and check out that link, and try out audiobooks if you haven't already. It's a very cool system, and I'm super excited to share it with you guys. And don't forget to like and subscribe. It's a big deal with all these YouTube algorithms. If you can, leave a comment below. Tell me why you like audiobooks, which one's your favorite audiobook, and tell me what other topics you guys would like to see on here. I'd love to hear from you guys, and I'd love to hear more from you guys as well. And I hope you guys keep reading and have a nice night. Bye-bye.